My brother ruined my life, got my wife pregnant, and now he wants my help. After our parents disowned him and left me their $2 million inheritance, my younger brother Nick suddenly came crawling back. Nick had always harbored a deep resentment toward me. No, it wasn't because of jealousy. He was the golden child. Not me. Our mother spoiled him. She cooked for him, did his laundry, and constantly asked me to help him with homework, just because we were family. I never got the same in return. I was independent, and maybe that's why I tolerated it for so long, and he never helped me with anything. He only came around when he needed something. I was quiet, introverted. I liked studying and keeping to myself. He was loud, rough, and always looking for trouble, just like our dad. I was blunt and honest. I think Mom hated that about me. Even though Nick was always the favorite, I didn't really mind. Until he started bullying me. He'd mock my glasses, my height. He'd sneak into my room, read my diary, and run to Mom about what I'd written. When I got mad and told our parents, they laughed it off. That's just how brothers play. He put nasty stuff in my food. Once he even put small stones in my cereal. I found them just before they could break my teeth. Again, Mom said it was nothing. At school, he sided with the kids who bullied me, called me names like ugly loser and hairy monkey, even told them to beat me up. One day, during a stupid fight I can't even remember, he told me to kill myself. That one stung because I was struggling with mental health at the time. I'm better now, but back then, hearing your own brother say that you should die, it destroyed me. Dad was always working, Mom didn't care. She even scolded me for irritating Nick when I tried to speak up. It got worse in high school. One day, Nick tried to set my hair on fire, and guess what? Mom defended him again, said he was just playing. But this time, Dad snapped. He threatened to call the police. That was the first time Nick ever saw consequences. He was stunned. Later that night, Dad came to talk to me. I never expected his support, and he always used to say how similar he and Nick were. But that night, he said something I'll never forget. I kept waiting for Nick to grow up, but now I see it. Yeah, he's just a bully. I broke down. I told him everything about the years of abuse, the bullying at school. He was shocked. The next day, he went to my school, warned the bullies. That night, he signed me up for MMA classes at the gym. You need to learn to stand up for yourself, he said. I threw myself into it. MMA changed everything. My confidence, my body, my mindset. Then one day, Nick stole the pocket money I'd been saving for weeks. I caught him just before he rode off with his friends. I told him to give it back. He laughed. What are you gonna do, cry to daddy again? Something inside me snapped. I punched him in the face. He fell back stunned. I grabbed the money from his pocket and shoved him to the ground. He started bawling like a child. Mom ran out, saw him crying, and immediately yelled at me, "You're the older one, be a role model." Nick just stood there smirking, loving it. She told Dad, thinking he'd punish me, but he made both of us explain. I told him the truth, and that Nick had stolen money I worked hard for. Nick said he needed it for a date and that I should help him out because we're brothers. Dad looked at him coldly and said, "You're lucky he just punched you. Anyone else would have called the cops." Nick threw a tantrum, expecting Mom to save him, but this time she didn't. He screamed, "I hate you," and locked himself in his room. From that moment on, he started avoiding me. For the first time, he understood I wasn't someone he could mess with anymore. Nick couldn't bully me anymore. Even Dad had finally stopped enabling his antics. For the first time in my life, I felt like we were equals. Though he could no longer hurt me physically, Nick shifted to verbal attacks when our parents weren't around. He became angrier, colder, and more short-tempered with age. Anytime I asked him a question, he would ignore me or mutter something like nerd or loser under his breath. If he needed to say something to me, he'd go through Mom instead of talking to me directly. When I asked her why Nick couldn't just speak to me like a normal person, she'd shrug and say, "Try to understand him." I couldn't tell if it was just teenage hormones or actual hatred. Over time, his constant disrespect wore me down. I wanted out. I begged my mom to help mediate a real sit-down talk between us, something to resolve the tension, but she always refused. "I don't want to get involved," she'd say. Eventually, I earned a full scholarship to my dream university. Dad even threw a party for me, and for once, Mom seemed proud, but Nick barely acknowledged it. He stood off to the side, arms crossed, like it hurt him to see me succeed. When I left home for college, it felt like freedom. I wasn't just excited, I was relieved. Relieved to escape Nick's toxicity and my parents' enabling. University was everything I needed. I made friends, I loved my classes. For the first time in my life, I was just me without fear of ridicule or insults. It was during my second year that I met Karen. We met at a frat party through a friend. We hit it off instantly. Karen came from a religious family, so when we found out she was pregnant during our final year, we agreed to get married after graduation. Our wedding was small but joyful. Even my parents showed up. Nick, of course, was cold and distant. At the time, I truly believed Karen was the love of my life. I'd never cheated, never even flirted. I was loyal because I wanted to be. She was everything I ever dreamed of in a partner. Then so it all came crashing down. Over the years, I discovered two betrayals. First, a long affair with a married coworker. Then, a one-night stand with an ex during a visit to her hometown. People said I was naive. Maybe I was, but I loved her. I forgave her twice. I told myself I didn't want to raise our son in a broken home. I believed in second chances. And for a while, it seemed to work. Karen acted different. Better. We started planning for the future again. But 3 months ago, she destroyed everything. She sat me down and calmly told me she'd been having an affair for years. Worse, that our son might not be mine. Her voice was flat, cold, almost robotic. I was frozen. I couldn't breathe. I asked why. How could she hide something like this from me? How could she let me raise a child that might not even be mine? She shrugged, gave vague answers. It was like watching someone describe a stranger's life, not the family we built together. But when I pushed for the truth, she finally said it. It was Nick. I stared at her, not understanding. What do you mean, Nick? She explained that during the holidays, Thanksgiving to New Year's, she had stayed with my family. She tried to bond with them. She spent time with my mom, tried to be accepted. She knew there was tension between Nick and me. She asked about it, and I told her the truth, that we might never have a relationship, that he had always resented me. So she tried to help. She started inviting Nick to our outings, movies, dinners, game nights. She'd let him pick the movies. She thought maybe we'd connect that way. It kind of worked. Nick started talking to me a little better than silence, I thought. I remember her and Nick laughing together, playing video games. I didn't think anything of it. But Karen told me that one night Nick opened up to her, like about a breakup, about feeling lost. She felt bad. She said he flirted, harmlessly at first. Then when I wasn't around, it escalated. She claimed it happened once, that she regretted it. That's why she suddenly left before New Year's. I remember begging her to stay, but she insisted on going home. Now I knew why. The image of Nick and my own brother, like with my wife, it made me sick. I felt like throwing up. And worse, the child I'd raised, loved, and protected, he might not be mine at all. When we got back to college after the holidays, Karen acted like nothing happened. Her usual cheerful self. So I didn't question anything. 2 weeks later, we found out she was pregnant. Karen admitted that she didn't know if the child was mine or Nick's, with no way to prove it at the time. She chose to stay with me, the more dependable brother. That was the real reason we got married. My world crumbled. The son I loved might not even be mine. I asked Karen if she had been sleeping with Nick recently. She nodded slowly. Then she confessed that they had never truly stopped. They had undeniable chemistry, she said, and would sneak off to hotels together, lying to me about working overtime. Half of her business trips had actually been romantic getaways with my brother. I asked her why she married me if she wanted him. She looked me in the eye and said, I didn't want to be the one to break the marriage. You were a great father. I didn't want to lose that. I just didn't know how to stop. I told Karen I appreciated her honesty and then calmly began packing my clothes. She started crying, begging me to forgive her. She expected me to yell. Instead, I was quiet. Karen pleaded, if you love me, you'll fight for us. Everyone makes mistakes in marriage. When she realized I wasn't going to do anything, she switched tactics. Our son will be affected by this. Children need both parents. Divorce will ruin him. I looked at her and said, he might not even be my son. She broke down even harder, accusing me of being cruel, but deep down it felt like she had believed nothing could ever make me leave. Maybe because I had forgiven her so many times before. Maybe that's on me, but I wasn't going to let this one slide. Yes, I had loved her, but I was beginning to see that it was less about love and more about what I thought we had. A family, a life, a future. And now, even that was a lie. Karen kept insisting it wasn't too late. We can fix this, she said, but I didn't believe her I couldn't. The trust was dead, and even if I could somehow forgive her, I'd never forget that she slept with my brother. Repeatedly. I left her crying on the doorstep and checked into a hotel. The next day I went straight to my parents. I told them everything, the years-long affair, the possibility that the child wasn't mine, that it was Nick's. They were stunned. As expected, my mother's first instinct was to defend Nick. He'd never do that to you. But I had a plan. I asked them both to stay silent and let me call Nick while they were in the room. I didn't want him to know they were listening. I wanted him caught off guard. When he picked up, I asked about the affair. He denied it. Of course he did, but when I told him Karen had confessed everything, he panicked, started blaming her, called her slutty and unfaithful. Said it wasn't his fault if women couldn't resist him. Then he said, "I'm the better-looking brother. Of course she wanted me." I smiled bitterly and said, "Thank you for confirming." He went quiet, then stuttered, trying to take it back, scrambling for an explanation. My parents had heard it all. My mother was in shock. She demanded an explanation. Nick tried to spin it, like blaming Karen, society, even me. He was desperate, but my father wasn't buying it. He took the phone from me and said in a voice I hadn't heard in years, stern, calm, but full of fury, "Nick, what you've done isn't just a betrayal of your brother, it's a betrayal of this family. You slept with your brother's wife. Repeatedly. You continued even after they were married. This is more than a mistake, Valerie. This is a pattern of disrespect, selfishness, and dishonor. I raise both of you to value family, loyalty, decency. What you've shown today goes against everything I've ever tried to teach you." He paused. Let that sink in. "From this day forward, you're on your own. The college fund I set up for you, gone. Your monthly allowance, gone. You want to act like a man? Let's see how you survive without my money, because in my house, we do not reward betrayal." I remained quiet through all of it. Honestly, I wanted to scream, to punch Nick, but watching my dad take him down, that was better. Nick tried to justify himself. My mom, still clinging to the image of her perfect son, tried to defend him, but Dad shut it all down. He ended the call without another word. Then my mom turned to me and hugged me. It had been years since we'd shared a hug, but this one, it meant something. She whispered, "I'm sorry for not believing you." That 14-year-old boy who begged for his mom to protect him, he finally got closure. But with my dad's help, I found a great divorce lawyer. Karen and her attorney tried to play dirty, asking for alimony, using my higher income against me, but her affair ruined her credibility. We also requested a paternity test. The results came in and Nick was the father. After the divorce and betrayal, I thought the worst was behind me, but then came the final blow. I had raised Henry as my son. I held him when he cried. I taught him how to ride a bike. I believed I knew who I was raising, but I didn't. Karen confessed Henry wasn't mine. He was my brother Nick's, and everything fell apart. Karen begged me to keep visiting Henry, said the boy shouldn't be punished. But every time I looked at him, I saw Nick, and I couldn't handle it. After the divorce, I moved into my own apartment. It was my first real taste of independence, and it felt good, peaceful, honest. 2 weeks ago, my dad called. He told me he was changing his will. Nick would get nothing and just $1, so he couldn't contest it. The rest, nearly $2 million, would go to me. The only condition was that if Dad passed before Mom, she could stay in the house. I agreed without hesitation. I still wanted to care for her. Yet somehow Nick found out. He called me, said he was struggling. Karen was asking for child support. He had no money, no job, and no one to turn to. He begged me to talk to our parents and help him start over. I laughed. I told him he should have thought about the consequences before sleeping with my wife. He tried blaming Karen. I agreed she was to blame too, which is why I divorced her. She's his problem now. He raised his voice. I cut him off and I told him, "You're not the favorite anymore. You're the brother who slept with his own brother's wife." That's when he started crying. He said the entire family had turned on him, that no one cared. And for a moment it hit me. I hadn't heard him cry like that since we were kids. But I stayed firm. "We're done," I told him. "Don't call me again. I don't consider you my brother anymore." Update 1. People ask why I don't see Henry. This isn't a stepchild situation. I was lied to. I was led to believe he was mine, and while I care for him, I don't want Karen in my life anymore. Seeing Henry would let her back in, and I won't allow that. Call me selfish if you want, but I can't do it, not now. Update 2. It turns out my mother was the one who told Nick about the will. I confronted her in front of my dad. She broke down, said I had punished Nick enough and that he deserved a second chance. My dad looked her in the eye and said, "If you think what Nick did is forgivable, I can't stay married to you, because I'll never forgive it." That ended the conversation, and he warned her. If she spoke to Nick again and we found out, she'd have to leave. Update 3. It's been 5 months. My relationship with my parents is stronger than ever. Dad and I go golfing every weekend. He treats me more like a friend than a son. Mom still misses Nick, but she hasn't spoken to him, and last I heard, Nick dropped out of college. He works part-time as a mechanic. He and Karen are living together, raising Henry. Maybe that's where they belong. As for me, I was promoted 2 months ago. I'm earning more than ever. I'm in therapy and taking time to heal. I'm not dating anyone. I'm not ready yet, but I'm doing better, and that's enough for now.